representing Franchise Secrets, Erik Von Horn.
If you're not a part of the Franchise Secrets Facebook group, what are you waiting for? It's franchisesecrets.com/Facebook. I cannot believe how valuable this group turned out to be. When someone asks a question, the feedback is honest, authentic, very helpful, and it's from multiple perspectives. If you're not sure that you're getting the most accurate information about franchising, then check out the largest, most helpful Facebook group in all of franchising. Whether you're a Z, a Zor, a buyer, or investor, join our free Facebook group at franchisesecrets.com/Facebook. Hey, it's Erik. I think you're going to enjoy this show with Ed Quinlan with Chem-Dry. Chem-Dry is part of the franchise family with Belfour, which is a massive restoration business. And so I think it was an interesting conversation around how they help top franchisees, how they innovate, how they have like a lot of activity within their franchise advisory council, how because of that council, they were working with top performers. They innovated like 5 new products over a 2-year period that are now part of the brand. It wouldn't have happened without that advisory council. So all of you that have always been wondering about what do you do with an advisory council? What's it like to be a franchisee with a large private equity company or a large brand? You're going to really enjoy this show. Ed, welcome to the show. You're with Chem-Dry. Chem-Dry was founded in 1977. I was born in 1976. So that brand's been around for a while. So welcome to the show.
Yeah. Hey, it's great to be with you, Erik. I tell you, I was just a little baby about that same time. So yeah.
I love it. Give me so you're brand president over there. You're owned by Belfour, which is a massive company. If anybody doesn't know that, Belfour is a massive company. They have 10 different brands, franchise brands in their portfolio. But give me some, background on Chem-Dry.
Yeah. You mentioned started in 1977, and as with most franchise brands, a really innovative founder, very, very passionate fellow started the business and developed Chem-Dry in this unique idea of carbonated cleaning solutions to clean carpets and upholstery. And it really, really took off. And Chem-Dry virtually exploded over the course of the first 15 to 20 years to hit across 30 countries. And then we've continued to develop and grow all the way up until now. This year marks 45 years for us, and now we're in over 50 countries. So about 3,000 licenses globally across those 50 countries. We're in about 10,000 homes a day, so a lot of connection with a lot of people. And we continue to use that power of carbonation to deliver a deep cleaning and make differences in people's homes and make their spaces healthier.
Is it really a secret sauce? Do other people do the same thing, or is it like super unique? Or do you, tell me?
No, I think that's important for us, is that it's unique. We have a lot of patents across a lot of our different products and processes to make sure that our franchisees have an edge. In fact, we're the only carpet cleaning company that has its own R&D team, right? The only brand with its own R&D team. And I have on-staff chemists, and we partner up on the equipment side and develop all of our own solutions for our franchisees so that it's unique and proprietary and custom for them. And that gives us a really, really big advantage in the marketplace from a marketing standpoint, because we say things that others can't say. It also, by the way, really helps the franchisee, because we're often teaching them, from a training standpoint, we got to teach them our way and just make it mega simple for them on cleaning. Because you can imagine dealing with all different types of carpets and fibers and upholstery from a training standpoint can become really, really complex. And so we found ways to streamline that.
I think about a brand like that's been around and has their own R&D team just established and has a deep bench, a very big leadership team and a lot of resources at their disposal, and the type of franchisee that they attract versus a brand that is, has 10 locations and they're new into carpet cleaning or whatever the thing is. Like, so what kind of franchisees do you attract and what do they love about being a part of a larger brand?
Well, I guess it doesn't necessarily matter large or small, although there can be strength in numbers for sure. The biggest thing is there's a lot of wisdom in this longevity. And so in a larger brand and a long-term brand, we really don't come across any issues that we haven't already had to face before. And so with new franchisees, it really helps us accelerate their rate of success because, they'll come to us with a problem and we can connect them up with another franchisee who's already solved that. We really don't encounter new ideas that, at least in principle, we haven't already had to overcome and be able to put those, sort of protocols in place to help those franchisees out and get them past it faster.
So one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on the podcast, thanks for coming on, is, you're part of this larger brand, Belfour. Give us a sense of what kind of brand Belfour is. Like, how big is that brand?
Yeah, Belfour is a huge, huge brand. They're, one of the largest restoration companies globally, more than 30 countries, and, a very well-recognized restoration organization. And they've got a very smart model. And it was quite synergistic for them to start what they call Belfour Franchise Group. Chem-Dry is now part of the Belfour Franchise Group. And, a lot of their Belfour restoration companies were running into some of the same problems with sourcing suppliers and vendors for different needs and services. And so that lent them to start the franchise group and say, hey, this is something we need a lot of. Maybe we just bring them into the family and started creating this network, this network of brands. When Chem-Dry joined Belfour Franchise Group back in 2019, there were 5 existing brands, so we were part of now 7. Chem-Dry, and we have a sister company here in Logan, Utah, where the Chem-Dry headquarters is, a sister company called Enhance. It's a wood refinishing company, and both leaders in our industry. And so that took them from 5 to 7. And since we've acquired some additional home services brands, and now we're up to 10 home services brands. They all line up with this idea of their van-based home or business, commercial and residential services. And in every instance, there's some kind of a fit back to supporting the restoration concept. And I think that synergy has really helped.
So massive company has a division, that's the franchising division, 10 brands in it. What was it like for Chem-Dry franchisees to be a part of a larger brand like that? I mean, Chem-Dry has been a large brand for a while, but like, what are some of the maybe concerns that you think franchisees had as they came to be a part of this larger company? And then what have been some of the benefits that franchisees have received by being a part of this large company, Belfour?
Yeah, you always have a concern when you're merging or partnering up with other companies on, will someone get lost? Right. And just making sure that the franchisees don't get lost and that you're seeking opportunities to invest in their growth and leverage those synergies for growth. We've been able to do some things the last couple of years through Belfour that I don't think we ever would have done under other ownership. And they've been willing to, make some investments in the organization, that things that franchisees have been asking for a real long time. And previous owners just weren't the payback is too long, right? And so now to have an owner say, yeah, we're willing to ride that out with you and partner with the franchisees on some of these long-term visionary concepts is really nice. So for instance, just this spring, Chem-Dry introduced a brand marketing fund, national awareness program. It's hard to imagine a 45-year-old brand doesn't have a national awareness program, right? And about 5 or 6 years ago, we dabbled in some headquarters-related national awareness, but the budget was really quite small, right? Not as impactful as you really want it to be. And so now with Belfour, we have a big kickoff. We're on cable and television and a lot of digital marketing going on right now at the national level to create that awareness. And I know our franchisees are only benefiting from that, and it'll help their local marketing a ton.
So how does that work? Let's say the franchisees, there's a 2% brand fund. which is kind of common out there, but let's just say it's 2%. Might be more, it might be less for you guys. And let's say it's a $3 million that come in, or $5 million that come in through the fund. How is it $5 million that Belfour spends out there on Chem-Dry's behalf, or do they match that, or how does that work?
I know different companies, franchisors will do it differently, right? In our instance, Belfour has put up a bunch of money up front to help with a big kickoff to put this into place. We worked with our franchise advisory council to actually get it in the contract all the way back to the spring of 2019, where we felt like it was the next big hurdle for us to try and overcome. So we connected with the franchise. I've been with the organization for 15 years, and I tell you, this is something that's come up every year with our franchise advisory council for 15 years. So the first step was get it in the contracts, and then we came to how do we execute it. And so here we are a couple of years later. So we have a big portion of franchisees that have it in their contracts now, and then Belfour has helped make up the gap for those who don't. So we came out with a really nice, strong showing, and then over time, as everybody gets on that same contract and they'll all be paying in, we'll be able to have an ongoing large fund. So Belfour is funding the kickoff, and they're funding that sort of gap, if you will, until the franchisee funding takes over.
That's great. So
it's a pretty significant investment.
I would imagine so, because when you're doing radio, TV, all that nationally, that is not insignificant at all. So when franchisees come up for a renewal, is that when it's going in there?
Yeah, like many franchisors, our contracts are 5 years. Mm-hmm. 5-year contract. By 2024, everybody will be on this same contract, paying into the funds and getting the benefits of it. Yeah.
That's great. I like it when brands kind of can do that, and they have the resources to be able to do that. But some, they don't even, if they have the resources, they won't even front load something like that. So, that's a huge advantage, being a part of a brand with deep pockets to be able to do that actually cares about franchisees, and a brand to be able to want to do that for them.
It'll come back to us at the franchisor, right? It'll come back to us long term, because healthier franchisees. This is going to help our franchisees out in the marketplace be healthier, help them with their job averages, help them with their customer acquisition costs and their ROI as it relates to marketing. And that'll be giant. Ultimately, Chem-Dry is looking for some market share growth, and the industry in carpet cleaning continues to be highly fragmented. About 75% of the market is independent. And so I believe that the market is interested more and more in brands. We see that across a lot of different segments. But the challenge in home services is you're letting someone come into your house. It's not like I'm driving through a quick service restaurant or through a drive-through or whatever, and I have a brick and mortar location. This is we're actually going into their homes, and so there's this element of trust that they want with local, which is ironically perfect for franchising, because you can have that brand power and that national recognition, and you can have that local service and that's local connection, because they actually live in our neighborhoods and community, and really marry it up.
Let's talk about some of the things that have changed over coming through the pandemic and COVID and all of that. I know that you've had some things that you've had to redo, some of the processes that you've had in place as a franchisor, internal communication, franchisee communication, and whatnot. So give me some insight into what's changed and how well it's working.
Yeah, at the very beginning of the pandemic, I sat down with the leadership team, and we talked about what were we going to need to do to help our franchisees get through this. And we made a couple of lists, but there were a couple of principles that guided us. One is we needed to communicate more and communicate regularly. Fear was going to be our enemy. And, being in the cleaning space, we have a decent amount of science and understanding around what was going on with the pandemic and some of the concerns, and we were paying a lot of attention to that. It's great to have scientists on staff who could help us sort through and really understand best about how we should be modifying and adjusting our protocols and our services, and to line up with what the market was asking for. tied to that. So, but to mitigate the fear, that meant increase the communication. So we decided we would ramp up our communication on a really frequent basis. In the rough times, we were doing a daily video call with our franchisees. And then over time that became weekly, and over time it became monthly. We still do a monthly video update with the franchisees, just because not everybody can get back together face to face, and we want that connection to continue to exist. We also started a series of emails. We were doing ongoing emails, and now we've got a cadence with our emails. It's really disciplined, and franchisees know what to expect when on different email communications. But we sort of took the old model of, you just sort of tell something when you wanted to say it and put it into a program. And the reaction from the franchisees has been positive, because now they sort of know what to expect and when. And our open rates are higher. The connection on the content, we feel like is higher. We're getting feedback from franchisees that they know more about what's going on than they ever have before. Well, I would say in the past, we felt like we were telling them. Now we're hearing back, yeah, we're hearing it. That's been a big change. The other thing we did at the beginning of the pandemic is we said, hey, we're going to need to make some pretty big decisions over these next 4, 6, 8 months. Let's just make sure that anything we decide doesn't set us up for failure in the future. That if we look back in 5 years back on those decisions, that we can be proud of the decision and say we made a decision that's going to help us in the future as a brand, help our franchisees. And I think that balance kept us from making some knee-jerk or quick decisions that probably might have helped in the short term, but actually hurt us in the long term. And partnered really closely with our Franchise Advisory Council to make sure that those decisions were in line. But we launched a specialized sanitizing service within weeks of the pandemic starting. We already had equipment. We were just missing some training pieces, and we were able to get that specialized sanitizing out in the market. And by summer, we had one of the spray services, we call it Micro Pro Shield, a sanitizing spray with a 90-day antimicrobial residual product that we lay down. Had that in the summer. A crazy fast R&D innovation, and sets us up, I think, long term to really align with the Healthy Home Authority message that we've been communicating in our marketing for now a couple of years.
What's the long-term effect of that? Because are consumers still concerned like they were that first year? Did it just get you more of a customer base? Like, what have been some of the long-term effects? Like, has that waned off? And then has it had impact in a positive way, kind of long-term or customer acquisition?
Yeah, there is an element initially around fear, and so people wanted to clean based out of fear. We didn't really want to market or try and promote to that because we felt like that was a flash in the pan. The science suggested that there were longer term benefits around just regular maintenance cleaning rather than trying to come in clean and recognize that wasn't going to be enough, right? So helping people change their behaviors, helping us change our behaviors, and early on, and then kept our marketing message around the long-term big picture. And I think that's really helped us. The marketplace is more interested in cleaning largely because of all this, even though in a lot of ways COVID has come and we're almost to endemic where it's at the back of people's mind rather than at the forefront of their mind. So they're not necessarily calling because of COVID, but they're definitely paying more attention to the cleanliness of their home. They're spending a lot more time in their homes than they used to. And therefore they're noticing the dirt, or they're making the dirt more. And so that's requiring them to clean more. So we're seeing an increase in cleaning across all of the cleaning segments, not just carpet cleaning, but carpet cleaning probably 5 to 7% growth, last year and this year, expecting it to plateau a little bit by the time we hit around 2024, 2025. We're expecting a little bit of a plateau, but the idea of clean is going to continue to matter for probably the next 10 years.
Yep. Yeah, I get it. Talk about the Franchise Advisory Council, because I get a lot in the Franchise Secrets Facebook group and just franchisees in my masterminds that are always like, oh, something goes bad in the franchise. And that usually triggers like, I want to have a franchise advisory council. And yet there's some franchisors that are proactive with that get that going before something negative happens or change happens. So give me some of your experience with that.
Yeah, don't wait.
Don't wait. Yes.
Do not wait. Get your franchise advisory council in whether it's a small franchise or whether it's a large franchise. The benefits of a franchise advisory council are I couldn't list them on a sheet of paper. There's just so many. A key thing for me, I have a franchise advisory council that is made up of 10 regions. With as big of a network as I have, with 850 owners across the USA and Canada, I have 10 different regions, and then we meet quarterly face to face, and then we'll do subcommittees with phone calls on a regular basis on the months that we're not meeting otherwise. But I actually meet weekly with the chairperson of the Franchise Advisory Council just to make sure that there are no big explosions that have come up that need to be quelched. And it's actually helped us keep things from becoming, giant balloons that then explode. We've been able to catch things early on, try and address them. I'm a big believer in transparency, and communicating with my FAC just really honestly and directly, and with the network too. And I think that has made all the difference. That there are no secrets, right? And so, like, guys, here's our intent. Maybe can't tell you all the details, but I can certainly tell you what the intent is of what we're trying to accomplish. And and franchisees will recognize, that aligns with their best interests and our best interests.
So do you get to pick who's on that advisory council? Is it the franchisees or a mixture of both?
It's mostly the franchisees. So there are some qualifying criteria, right, in order for them to run, but they're nominated by their peers. In our organization, they run for a 2-year term. And of my 10, I have 5 in, call it year A, and then another 5 in year B. They'll serve their 2 years and then up for re-election. They can serve a maximum of 2 consecutive 2-year terms, and then we need to let somebody else in. You need new voices. I think that's important to get new voices. If you're 5, 6, 10 years in and you're listening to the same people all the time, chances are you're not going to make the changes that you need to make to stay current in the market.
What's a good story? What's a good, like, as you look back, as your time as brand president, what's been one of the benefits you look back and be like, this is a good reason why we have this advisory council? Do you have a story for me?
Yeah, I do. I've got a good one. Back a couple of years to, our franchisees were looking ahead, and some of the stories that they would hear from their customers are, we were a carpet and upholstery cleaning company. For 40 years, carpet and upholstery cleaning. We added tile cleaning on about 10 years ago, but there were a lot of other services that franchisees felt like they were missing out on. Probably the biggest one was wood floor cleaning. Some other things like we added granite countertop renewal. We added LVT cleaning, some of those specialty services, and even dryer vent cleaning. Dryer vents are really something everybody should get cleaned, but nobody ever thinks about it. Yep. So as long as we're in the home, we should take care of it. Well, franchisees started hearing these little stories of very, very loyal customers who would try someone else to have their wood floors cleaned. And then unfortunately, that wood floor cleaner probably also did carpet cleaning. And so they might lose them. So we're like, well, let's keep it in the family. Let's keep them with us. And I'm a big believer that if we're going to get into a service, I want to do it best in class. So we partnered up with our R&D team and some of our top franchisees to do some pilots and developed out a whole business around these additional services. We launched 5 new services in the course of 24 months out to the franchise network, and all of those ideas came from our Franchise Advisory Council. If it hadn't have been for them, I think our franchisees would have been losing customers, and long term they would continue to lose them. And to be honest, it'd be harder for me to sell new licenses because I think someone buying a franchise, they recognize they need a one-stop shop.
Do you think you would have, without that feed, was the council pushing you for these and like, hey, we're losing this, and then it made you guys listen and actually do something about it? Is that what happened?
Yeah, because there are, if I hadn't listened to the council, there was enough data for us to say, hey, but what if we focus over here and let's get franchisees to do this differently and they could improve their business this way? it would have solved a different problem. It would have solved the problem tied to that, but it wouldn't have solved this problem that they were talking about. And what our Franchise Advisory Council was saying is, hey, for our long-term success, yes, do that, but also remember this and get this on the plate. And so they helped it rise to the priority where otherwise I don't think it would have landed on our plate, at least for years later. They helped us prioritize that up and get it on the plate and get it over the finish line.
How do you, as brand president, like to be approached by franchisees that see a problem or see a solution? Like, what's the, if it wasn't going through an advisory council, how do you like to hear about ways to improve things or fix things, or even bad news? Like, if it wasn't for the council, what would you want as a brand president?
Well, the council is great, but it doesn't necessarily solve every communication issue, that franchisees have. It helps us understand not only across the 10 franchisees, but also the regions. They try to connect with their regions, and they do advocate for franchisees. But it's not uncommon for me to have one-on-one conversations with franchisees, and I really try to have an open door policy where I'm talking to franchisees, listening to them about their businesses, and asking them for feedback about how we can do our jobs better, learning from them, not only what challenges are going on today, but how they've overcome challenges in the past so we can help others. How do I like to be approached about that? Email me, call me, text me. I think that's one thing you sort of learn is there's not a lot of personal. You don't get a lot of personal time when you're in a role like that, but people are very respectful of me. If I'm having dinner with the family, I can text them back and say, "Can I call you back in 20 after dinner's done?" But you got to take care of the customer when the customer is ready to be taken care of, and so I just try to be accessible and responsive, and the feedback. I can't fix everything for them, so sometimes it's more about the listening, more about saying, "Hey, is there a way that we can make a change in the future?" But you got to be willing to listen.
So top performing franchisees, I see a lot of franchise organizations that kind of the bottom performing, let's bottom third or bottom 25%, they're really working them out of the system. Either somebody buys them out or they help them exit or something like that. A lot of brands focus on that middle third. And then some brands, try to help that top 5%. So what do you do for that top tier franchisee, or do you do that much? Because sometimes they've got it going on their own and you just stay out of their way. But what's your philosophy on that?
Yeah, I think that's awesome that you brought up that those sort of segments because what I've learned, yes, on the bottom, you're trying to help them exit. If this isn't working for them, let's get somebody in who it can. And every time we transfer a franchise, we always see a bump in the new franchisee. They're able to take the foundation, and 45-year-old brand, my average franchisee has been in for about 20 plus years, right? So there's a good solid business that's often been neglected for a couple of years, and a new franchisee can come in and turn that around really, really quickly. I love to see that, love to support it and help that out. And I'd love for the exiting franchisee to get some value for what they built, right? So don't mind that at all, but I don't really focus on that segment. The big, meaty middle, they get attention, but here's our approach, is I focus on the top and from scouring the top to learn best practices and what they're doing and partnering with them to build those out into replicable processes. And then we take those processes and we deliver them to the meaty middle. And when we're doing it our best, I actually turn them into automations. The top guys absolutely love it. They're willing to do the work if it's the best practice, to implement it. The meaty middle often doesn't want any extra work. So if I can turn it into an automated process and it just happens, it's unreal what the results are. A good example is we partnered with a company called Review Trackers. And some of our top franchisees were using Review Trackers, getting some really good success in getting reviews from customers. And as you can imagine, in home services, reviews are like a lifeblood for us. They're just so important. And so we partnered with them, built out some best practices, integrated it in with our CRM. The meaty middle, they were trying to, hand someone a QR code or at the end of of the meeting say, please go find us on Google and leave a review and whatnot. Really, really low success rates of getting reviews. But Review Trackers had this model, very, very efficient and effective. So we implemented it as an integration. So for the entire brand, whenever a technician completes an invoice, it takes it from a work order to an invoice at the end of the job and says, Mrs. Jones, it's been great dealing with you today. She receives a text message inviting her to leave a review directly on their Google business profile. And that has been game changing for franchisees, that automation, having a good vendor partner and having the integration. And the key part was the automation.
Having a good vendor is critical. What are some other like vendor relationships that you've had, or maybe some bad ones that you're like, I'm glad we changed this. We don't need to name names, but like, the difference. I mean, I think franchisors, some of them are working with vendors that are mediocre. And then there's some vendors out there that are just ninja in what they do and what they offer and how they can help. Any other lessons that you've learned with vendors?
Yeah, I think we don't have an off-the-shelf CRM. It's a slightly customized CRM, but we've worked with a vendor partner for that. That's been a really, really key relationship. Having that centralized CRM and a good relationship with that's so important, and have that consistency across, again, a 45-year-old brand. When I first started here, everyone was writing on paper, right? And one of the big pushes I had was to get us off of paper and onto tablets and onto phones, right? And today a technician can go into the home and do everything digitally. That has been key. And today, all my new vendor relationships are about automations that integrate in with that, right? And so having a vendor who's willing to adapt and integrate and recognize that there's more that can be done when we find synergies with other companies. For instance, integrations with QuickBooks, that's another really, really powerful vendor partner of ours. The accounting side, if a franchisee doesn't have data on their business, whether it's the metrics out of their CRM or whether it's our financial metrics out of their accounting software, it's going to be really hard for them to run their business. And it's crazy hard for us to advise them, whether it's in coaching or whether we're trying to build out programs that help create network health. If we don't have access to data, we just can't do it. And we've really been focusing on that. And most of my vendors have lined up with that. I've had a couple of mishaps, especially with hiring vendors. Some employee hiring vendors have made us stumble. At the current moment, we've got a really good partnership, and I'm really delighted with what we're doing with Career Plug.
What about a call center? Do you have a call center? Is it in-house? Do you outsource it? What are some of the experience that you've had with call centers?
Yeah, boy, call centers are hard, call centers are hard. I've got a great call center. Yeah, I've got a great call center, but they have capacity, right?
Yeah.
The capacity issues can be a challenge. And then on the flip side, when my franchisees answer the phone themselves, or someone who works right in the business, who understands the nuance of, we're trying to deliver routing specifically to neighborhoods and hey, I'm already in your neighborhood on Thursday, just down the street, let me come Thursday afternoon to your house, kind of thing, right? Like that really can make a difference in efficiency for a franchisee. They love it when they can deliver that. And so, asking someone who's working for someone else to deliver that level of expertise can be a little bit more challenging. So call centers, they perform at a B level in general. It's hard to find a call center that performs at an A level, where a franchisee will typically answer the phone at the A level. So, I invite franchisees, if you can't answer it yourself or hire someone to answer it, then use the call center, but use them on a second ring basis. So you get your first chance to answer it. If you're in the home and you're talking to a customer, the vast majority of my Chem-Dry businesses are owner operators. So the owner is actually on the van doing work. And so if you're talking to a customer, you don't want to interrupt that and take a phone call. That's very unprofessional. So go ahead and let that roll through. The call center will do okay.
Well, that's what I was kind of wondering too. I was going to go into that. Like, are they mostly owner operator? Are they like multi-unit? Do they own other franchises, or is it mostly owner operator right now?
I probably have a top 100 franchisees, top 15, 20% that are they'll often own multiple businesses. They've got teams and crews that work for them, a lot of different vans. But the majority of Chem-Dries are going to be owner operator, and I'll call it a 2-van model, where the owner, he runs his van and then he hires a technician to run a second van, right? And he'll fill that second van first with work, keep the technician busy, and then he fills his van because he also has some the ownership duties that he's got to manage. So if the other guy's doing 3 or 4 jobs a day, he's only doing 2 jobs a day, maybe 3 jobs a day, because he's got other things to do. But that's probably the most common model, is a 2-van operation.
What do you see happening as we are starting to see a shift in the economy, and there's recession getting thrown around, things are starting just to change right now, where it's been flushed with cash in the past, and we're starting to see some signs of changing in the economy. How does that impact your brand, customers, and things like that?
Yeah, I'm not worried for the brand, and not really worried for the customers. Carpet cleaning isn't really a luxury, right? So people get their carpets cleaned because they believe in a healthy, clean home. They'll get their carpet cleaned when their mother-in-law comes and visits, and a lot of those things are going to continue to happen, and that it's not really a luxury decision. So I think the demand will continue. I'm not too worried about that. Clean is going to continue to be important. From a franchisee standpoint and from franchise sales standpoint, I also am not concerned, because people are interested in being in control of their future. And right now there's just so many jobs available, and a lot of people just have so many options, and they don't necessarily the franchising may or may not be on their list of things to think about. But in a lot of our minds, we think about what would it be like to own my own business. And so for people to be in a position where they're like, yeah, I'd like to be in control, and then I'd like to partner with a brand or a concept that is in a healthy, stable industry like the cleaning industry, and a healthy, stable brand with some longevity like Chem-Dry, I think there's a lot of wins for us that will help us through any economic challenges we're going to be coming up to. I'm pretty optimistic about it.
I can see why. I mean, I asked that question, but I figured, it was a pretty recession resilient business, and people that are leaving corporate America have to get out of corporate America, looking for another side business, or whatnot. And the stability of being with a large brand like Belfour, and a brand that's been around forever, like Chem-Dry. So I like it. Any last bits of knowledge, wisdom, things that you want to share before I let you go?
Well, I think along those lines, corporate America doesn't necessarily care about your passion or your engagement level, right? They often, when they're making decisions, they're very driven by some data spreadsheet, right? And so often employees that are really great employees and really hardworking and very passionate land in a position where they're looking at what's next for me, and or they want out of that sort of crazy environment, and they see the writing on the wall. Well, jumping into franchising is the perfect fit. I love engaging with people who have not been recognized for their passion, because in franchising, we can leverage that and we can help them build something for themselves that otherwise they would never be given, right? The corporate America isn't going to give that to them. We can help them build that for themselves. And I love being a part of that with them.
Awesome. Well said. Ed, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, it's great.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Franchise Secrets Podcast. Whether you're watching or listening, please make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and to whatever channel you're listening on. If you want my help with anything from buying a franchise to franchising your business, please visit franchisesecrets.com.